Discover the incredible, life-changing journey of Porsche, unveiling 70 years of heartwarming triumphs that will leave you breathless. In the heart of Taylorville, a small Midwestern town where the scent of motor oil greets you, like an old friend, 23-year-old Tony Garcia lived for speed. Every day, the rhythmic clanking of tools and the hum of engines surrounded him like a comforting blanket. He spent his childhood in the family shop, learning the ins and outs of auto repair from his grandfather, a proud World War II veteran whose stories filled the garage with an electric mix of nostalgia and dreams. Racing was in his blood, a fire passed down through generations. But as summer rolled in, that fire flickered, burdened by the expectations of his loving, traditional family who depended on him to keep their legacy alive. Tony's dreams soared through the air. Much like the sleek Porsche, he was working on a beautiful machine that sparkled in the sunlight, reflecting the very road to freedom he yearned for. The smell of fresh-cut grass inched its way into the garage while he wiped sweat from his brow. Each rev of the engine filled his chest with hope, but the weight of duty felt heavy like a wrench in his pocket. Then, Rick came back. Estranged for years, his older brother arrived from the busy city with ambition glimmering in his eyes. Rick fancied himself a businessman, and his slick world promised nothing Tony ever wanted. He stood in the shop, a stark contrast to Tony's grease-stained existence, boasting plans that shimmered like chrome but threatened to snuff out the warmth of family bonds. As the brothers clashed, it felt like watching a racetrack crash unfold. The noise, the tension, the inevitable hurt. Just when Tony thought dreams were slipping through his fingers, an invitation swooped into his life like a miracle, a racing competition for classic cars. A chance to honor his grandfather's legacy, to drive, to be seen, to break free. His heart raced at the possibilities. But Rick, sensing opportunity, made a proposition that could shatter everything, funding a venture that would tether Tony to corporate success but pull him farther from the family shop. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With the race day fast approaching, hearts raced alongside engines. The community was buzzing, their whispers filling the air as secrets and old wounds resurfaced. Tony stood at a crossroads, each road reflecting his fears and desires. Just when he thought synergy with Rick might be the answer, disaster struck. A catastrophic accident left the Porsche in ruins, smashed and broken just like his aspirations. In that moment of despair, gripped by the intensity of sacrifice, Tony grasped the wrench tightly. His dreams felt like fragments scattered across the cold concrete floor of the garage. As the sun set, casting shadows of uncertainty around him, he realized this journey was no longer just about racing. It was about family, love, and honoring what truly mattered. With the race just hours away now, what path would Tony choose? Would he dive into a world of ambition at the cost of his roots? Or would he race toward a destiny forged in love and legacy? The engines were warming up, but for Tony, it was more than just competition. It was the heartbeat of his family's future. The tension lingered, leaving one burning question in the air. Could he find a way to honor the spirit of his grandfather and keep his family ties strong? The morning sun broke through the clouds, sprinkling golden rays across Taylorville, but inside the garage, the atmosphere was heavy. Tony stood over the wreckage of the Porsche, brows furrowed and heart heavy. The sight of his dreams smashed kept replaying in his mind like a broken record. Each crumpled fender and shattered glass shard felt like a punch to the gut. He closed his eyes, envisioning the smooth curves of the car, how the roar of the engine made him feel alive. Man, you're really going to do this, huh? You're really going to let it all go? The harsh gravity of Rick's voice cut through the haze that clouded Tony's thoughts. Rick leaned against the framed doorway, arms crossed, a mixture of concern and disbelief etched across his face. The brothers had been through so much, but somehow, standing there, it felt like they were back at square one. Tony turned to his brother, frustration boiling over. What do you want me to do, Rick? Just pretend everything is fine? This car was my ticket to everything I've dreamed of. Rick stepped closer, urgency creeping into his tone. You need to think bigger, Tony. You've got the skills. We can get you into some serious business. You could become someone. Look at what I'm building. You could leave this place and never look back. At that moment, the sound of laughter drifted in from outside. A group of kids, gleefully riding their bicycles, reminded him of simpler days. He felt the laughter wrap around him like a warm blanket, bringing back memories of his childhood. Racing through town with his friends, the wind flying through his hair. Tony's heart ached for that sense of adventure again, tinged with a bittersweet longing. And what about Grandpa? Tony's voice softened, emotion lacing through each word. He put his heart and soul into this shop, into this community. I can't just walk away. Rick ran a hand through his hair, frustration spilling onto his face. He wouldn't want you to be stuck here either. I get it, you love this place. But there's a whole world out there waiting for you. You're wasting your talent. Silence enveloped them, thick and unsettling. Tony felt the weight of his brother's words and the truth behind them. It was a chemical reaction, igniting a whirlwind of feelings. Was he really ready to let go of the familiar? To trade the grease-stained floors for the boardrooms Rick envisioned? Or was he just grasping at threads of a legacy he feared he might lose? Suddenly, a thought struck him. What if we fix the Porsche together? You and me. His heart raced at the idea. It would be more than just about racing. It would be a symbol, a bridge connecting their ambitions, their past, their family. Rick's face lit up for the briefest moment. Are you serious? Yeah, let's do it. This race isn't just mine. It's ours. We can honor Grandpa together. As determination flared within Tony, he saw an opening, a chance to merge their worlds. Together, they would collide their dreams and start anew. As the siblings exchanged a tentative smile, the excitement crackled in the air, much like the engines that would soon roar to life once more. But deep down, a question lingered. Could they truly come together? Or would their differences crack under the pressure of their shared dreams? The countdown to the race loomed closer, and the stakes had never been higher. The hum of engines and the clatter of tools soon filled the garage, breaking the silence that had settled between Tony and Rick. They stood side by side, an unsteady alliance, each grasping a wrench in their hands like soldiers preparing for battle. The dim light seemed to spotlight the Porsche's mangled body, a haunting reminder of dreams that had almost slipped through their fingers. Rick flashed a determined grin. All right, let us get to work. We'll need a plan. Tony nodded, adrenaline pumping through his veins. As they began to sift through the mess of tools and spare parts, a faint spark of hope ignited within him. It felt different this time. It wasn't just a job. It was a shared mission, a chance to dust off the remnants of their childhood dreams and breathe new life into something beautiful. First things first, Tony said, peering at the engine. We need to assess the damage. They leaned over the car, lifting the hood with hesitant hands. The engine lay exposed, a jumble of wires and metal. It was daunting, but Tony felt an exhilaration he hadn't known in years. With each twist of the wrench, he imagined the roar of that engine coming back to life. Remember the first time you got behind the wheel? You were so terrified. Rick chuckled as he tightened some bolts. Yeah, but the moment I hit the gas, oh man, everything changed. I felt invincible. The brothers laughed, a shared moment that eased the tension, allowing the years of rivalry to fade for just a heartbeat. As the days turned into weeks, they found their rhythm, their voices blending into the music of the garage. The smell of engine oil and gasoline became comforting, the sound of chatter a familiar backdrop. They fought over trivial things, but always ended with laughter. With every new dent hammered out and every shiny piece reattached, they discovered small joys that reminded them of their youth. Look at this, Tony exclaimed one afternoon, holding up a gleaming chrome piece. Just like it used to be. Rick grinned. Just like we used to be. But beneath this nostalgia, uncertainty bubbled just beneath the surface. What if it wasn't enough? What if they couldn't fix it, couldn't reclaim their shared aspirations? Those thoughts lingered in the back of Tony's mind, despite the joy the work brought. Then, one afternoon, as the sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows across the garage, Rick dropped a bombshell. You know, Tony, I've been thinking. Tony looked up, his heart racing at the thought of what might come next. About what? The Porsche? No, about us. About what happens after we get this car ready. What do you mean? What if we really did take the plunge? Leave everything behind for good? Once the car is fixed, what stops us? Fear and excitement mingled in Tony's chest. The idea terrified and exhilarated him at once. The possibility of breaking free from the very roots that had bound him for so long was daunting. Are you saying we race it somewhere? Take it on the road? Rick's eyes gleamed. Why not? Could be our fresh start. Our chance to embrace everything Grandpa believed we could be. Tony's heart thudded as he imagined the open road ahead. The engine roaring. The landscape a blur. Could they really do it? Before he could voice his thoughts, the overpowering roar of a car engine echoed from outside. They both turned, eyes wide as they caught sight of a sleek, polished vehicle that had just pulled up. The driver stepped out, confidence radiating from him, and Tony felt a whirlwind of emotions stir within. Who was this newcomer, and what could he possibly want from them? In that moment, the tension shifted. The prospects of the future, the upcoming race, and the past they both cherished loomed large, bringing with it a tidal wave of uncertainty. Each breath hung heavy in the air, pregnant with potential. The countdown had begun, but there was so much more at stake than just a car, and the race would soon reveal the truth that would change everything forever. Would they embrace the unknown, or would fear hold them back? The newcomer approached, his leather jacket glistening in the fading sunlight. Tony and Rick stood frozen, a mixture of curiosity and apprehension thickening the air around them. "Hey, fellas," the man said, his voice smooth and confident. "Nice ride you have there." Rick exchanged a quick glance with Tony, who felt a tug of skepticism. "You know this car?" Rick asked. "You could say that I've had my share of adventures behind the wheel," the driver replied with a smirk. "Name's Jake." Tony felt a strange swirl of emotions. Jake looked like he belonged on the racetrack, not in their humble garage. "What do you want?" he asked, trying to sound tougher than he felt. "I just thought I'd stop by. Heard there's a bit of a revival happening here." Jake waved his hand toward the Porsche. "Gotta say, it's a beauty, even in this state." Tony found himself warming up to Jake's enthusiasm, but caution lingered. "We're not ready yet." "Ready? What do you mean?" "The work you've put in is impressive. You've got potential." Rick perked up at the compliment. "We're aiming for a fresh start, maybe a race or two." "Now we're talking." "The car showdown is coming up next month," Jake said, eyes twinkling with excitement. "Perfect chance to test her out and show what you've got." Tony's heart raced. "But we're not good enough?" Jake interrupted, leaning closer. "You think that matters? There's a vibe in a race that's all about the thrill, not the trophy. You either throw your heart into it or you don't. What's stopping you?" Rick's gaze drifted toward the Porsche, and Tony could see his brother contemplating the implications. "Maybe you're right," Rick said slowly. Tony hesitated but felt the spark of Jake's words igniting something deep inside him. "What do we have to lose?" he murmured, almost to himself. Jake grinned widely. "Exactly. Gather your courage, boys. The keys to your future are in that car. But it's going to take guts to embrace it, and you better be ready for anything." The weight of Jake's declaration rested on Tony's shoulders. He looked at the car, then back at Rick, needing to know where they both stood. "Are we really doing this?" Rick asked quietly, his eyes betraying a mix of doubt and yearning. "Why not?" Tony replied, a tremor of resolve running through him. "We can't keep holding on to what was. It's time to look ahead." Rick smiled, and with that they were united in purpose once again. They'd have to prepare, work faster, and dig deeper within themselves. It felt like they were on the brink of something extraordinary. "All right," Jake said, cocking an eyebrow. "But it'll require time and a bit of grit. You guys ready?" Before either brother could respond, a loud bang echoed from nearby, startling all three. They turned as an unmarked van pulled in. Shadows stirred inside, and a low rumble of voices emerged. Tony's stomach twisted with unease. Who are they? Jake's expression shifted from excitement to concern. Not good. They're not looking for a friendly chat. A moment of realization dawned on Tony. This was taking a turn he hadn't anticipated. What exactly were they getting into? As the figures began to emerge from the van, the air thickened with tension. Something was off, and the stakes had just been raised higher than they could have imagined. Fear and curiosity danced in Tony's mind. Would the pursuit of their dreams expose them to more than they ever bargained for? The answer hung in the air, promising the adventure to come would forever change their lives. The first figure stepped out of the van, wearing a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. He was tall, muscular, moving with a purpose that sent a chill down Tony's spine. "Stay behind me," Jake whispered, instinctively placing himself between the brothers and the strangers. Tony's pulse quickened. A sense of danger coursed through him, mingling with his growing excitement about the race. He had one foot in the thrill of the upcoming showdown and the other in an unpredictable conflict unfolding before him. "Who do you think you are?" Jake called out, his tone dangerously steady. The group didn't answer immediately. Instead, they exchanged glances, sizing up the three of them like they were pawns in an unfamiliar game. "Just some guys looking for a little fun," the tallest man said, stepping forward. "Heard this is where the action is." Tony's gut twisted tighter. Fun? This felt anything but. "We're not interested," he spat, trying to sound confident. But warmth flushed his cheeks, a dark laugh rippled through the group. "Oh, I think you are. Especially with a car like that." The man gestured dramatically towards the Porsche, his eyes gleaming with a mix of greed and audacity. Feeling a sudden warmth at the mention of the car, Rick stepped forward. "What do you want?" His voice was shaky, but filled with an unintentional bravery. The man smirked. "Let's just say we want in on your little revival. Potentials are great, but what's a race without some stakes?" The banter was thick with tension, and a heavy silence settled, stretching seconds into eternity. Tony glanced at Jake and saw his jaw clenched. They were cornered, and don't know why. "Listen," Jake said, breaking the stillness, "this isn't your turf. You're not welcome here." The man took a step back, feigning mock concern. "Turf? This is about to get a lot more interesting, my friend." He motioned over his shoulder to the rest of his crew. Each one stepped forward menacingly. "What do you mean?" Rick asked, his voice barely loud enough to hear. Instead of answering, the leader's lips curved into a sinister smile. "We're not here for a friendly race. Consider us investors, or maybe even your competition. Either way, your little project caught our attention." Jake's body hardened. "You'd better back off. We're not afraid of you." Tony felt a rush of protectiveness for his brother. "We can handle ourselves," he shot back, his heart racing not just from fear but from adrenaline. The leader smiled wider, a wolfish smile that didn't sit right. "Oh, I'm counting on it. I can't wait to see how you handle the pressure. Just remember, the race isn't the only thing that can change your life." With that ominous statement hanging in the air, the group turned and walked back towards the van, the tension snapping like a taut wire. "What just happened?" Tony breathed, his heart hammering in his chest. Jake shook his head, eyes locked on the strangers. "I don't know, but I don't trust them for a second." Rick looked between Jake and Tony, brow furrowed. "Are we really going to let them intimidate us?" Tony squeezed his eyes shut for a moment. Were they really about to dive into a competition that had drawn in people like this? "No," he said finally. "We're going to show them who we are. We're going to race, and we're going to do it on our terms." Jake's face lit up with that flare of excitement again, and Rick nodded, resolve strengthening between them. The risk was clear now, and yet, deep in Tony's chest, he felt a flicker of determination. As they turned their attention back to the Porsche, the car seemed to sparkle under the waning sunlight. Felt like hope, or was it a drug? They were all in love with this machine, and now it held their fate. But as they prepped for the work ahead, Shadows loomed big against the setting sun. The challenge of the race was just the surface. What else would they have to confront on this journey? Tony's stomach nodded at the thought as they approached the car, unaware of the storm brewing on the horizon. How deep did this rabbit hole run? The answer was just out of reach, waiting for them to take the plunge. What challenges would they really face when push came to shove? As the last light of day faded, the brothers stood in a silent huddle, the enormity of what lay ahead slowly dawning on them. Tony felt the weight of the Porsche on his shoulders, its gleaming surface somehow matching the storm brewing inside him. Each breath he took felt heavier, thick with unspoken fears and hopes. "Let us get to work," Jake finally said, breaking the silence. It wasn't just a suggestion. It was a rallying cry. Tony nodded, pushing the uneasy feelings aside. They had always taken on challenges together, and this would be no different. They began examining the Porsche, running their hands over its sleek curves, feeling the power hidden beneath the hood. The thrill of the impending race flickered back to life in Tony's chest, brightening the tension that had settled during their encounter with the strangers. As they checked the tires, Jake's fingers grazed the metal, and he smiled, that familiar mix of determination and excitement lighting up his face. Rick, meanwhile, busied himself with tools scattered around the garage. "You think they're really serious?" he asked, his voice barely concealing the tremor of uncertainty. "Doesn't matter," Jake replied, his gaze still on the car. "We're doing this. We've got something they don't. Heart. We've put everything into this car and our dream." Tony felt a flicker of resilience. Their time working on the Porsche wasn't just about speed. It was about proving themselves. It was about brotherhood. As they dove deeper into preparations, the smell of sizzling rubber and gasoline wafted through the air. Tony wiped sweat from his brow, glancing back towards the direction the strangers vanished. What other games were they playing? Were they really just there for a race? "Hey, can you hand me that wrench?" Rick called over, snapping Tony from his thoughts. With each click of the tools, adrenaline surged. The sound of gears clanking and muffled laughter within the garage felt like an incantation, summoning courage despite the unease lingering at the edges of their excitement. But as the engine purred to life for the first time, a rush of pure exhilaration chased away the doubt. The vibrations thrummed through their veins. This wasn't just a car. It was a lifeline, a shot at racing glory and a chance to rewrite their story. Yet, just as they felt the joy swirling around them, the shadow of the group loomed back into their minds. "What do you think they want?" Tony asked, voice low. It was a question that hung heavy in the air. "Who knows?" Jake replied, his brow furrowing. "Whatever it is, we can't let them dictate our race or our passion. That's ours." The four men persisted, layering hopes over fears. They faced each aspect of the car with renewed intensity. Still, a knot tightened in Tony's stomach. The thrill of racing was intoxicating, but he knew better than to think it was going to be easy. "Let us test it out," Jake finally said, breaking into a grin. They were ready to give the Porsche a spin, to feel the world race by them as they slipped into the car. The air crackled with anticipation. Tony took a deep breath, adrenaline surging. Did they really know what they were getting into? What if they somehow stirred a hornet's nest with their decisions? With Jake gripping the wheel and Rick riding shotgun, they backed the car out. Tony exhaled slowly, scanning the horizon where the sky darkened. Shadows danced ominously in the distance, but there was no turning back now. They were locked in as the engine roared. They propelled forward, the adrenaline washing over them like a wave. This race was about more than speed. It was about defiance, about claiming their territory, about proving that nothing would hold them back. "Hold on tight," Jake shouted, excitement spilling over as they accelerated. However, in that moment of freedom, Tony couldn't shake the feeling that the real fight was just beginning. Who were those guys really? As the car sped down the open road, a flicker of headlights loomed behind them like a predator tracking its prey. Would their challenges multiply now that they had stirred the waters? The thrill of the race blended with a chilling sense of uncertainty. What awaited them around the next corner? The wind whipped past them, a wild symphony of speed and freedom. Jake's grip tightened on the steering wheel as they pushed the Porsche into the night. The engine hummed a powerful tune, and Tony felt every vibration in his bones. There was a thrill in the air that set them alight, an intoxicating mix of exhilaration and fear. Yet, no matter how fast they drove, the shadows behind them grew bolder. The flickering headlights were never too far off, a reminder that the impending race wasn't just between them and the asphalt. It felt more like a prelude to a deeper confrontation. Tony's heart pounded as he peered into the rearview mirror, where two silhouettes materialized behind them, lurking like wolves in the night. "Keep going," Jake shouted, his voice straining against the roar of the engine. "Do you think they're following us?" Rick asked, his tone suddenly less playful and more tense. "It doesn't matter," Tony said, clenching his jaw. "Just focus on the road. We can't be scared now." With his heart racing faster than the tires, Tony closed his eyes for a brief moment, trying to anchor himself. It wasn't just the thrill of driving that made his heart race. It was the fear of an unknown challenge, of confronting something larger than themselves. As they flew down the winding road, adrenaline coursed through Tony's veins like fuel. Every twist and turn of the asphalt felt like a dance, a challenge to the elements. Trees blurred into streaks of green and brown, and the scent of pine mixed with the aroma of burning rubber created a unique fragrance of freedom. But the headlights loomed closer, blinding now, and there was an urgency in the air that felt electric. "Don't look back," Jake urged. "Just keep moving." Tony opened his eyes. He wasn't about to let fear overtake them. They had come too far. Every night spent working in the garage, every drop of sweat poured into this car, it had all led to this moment. It wasn't just a race. It was a test of their resolve, their brotherhood. With a burst of courage, Jake pushed the Porsche to its limits. The road opened up ahead, an empty stretch that seemed to invite them forward. Tony leaned back, allowing himself to enjoy the moment, and then the realization hit him like a jolt. What if they couldn't escape? What if those headlights belonged to the very strangers who had haunted their thoughts? The thought sat heavy in his mind, but he shook it off. "We're faster," he shouted, adrenaline fueling his confidence. As they surged forward, a powerful sense of unity enveloped them. The thrill of the chase ignited something deep within Tony. He knew this was more than just a race against time. This was about challenging the unknown, standing strong against any threat. But then, without warning, the headlights split around them, revealing not one, but two cars flanking their sides. Tony's heart dropped as he realized they anticipated their moves. "What the hell?" Rick yelled, panic threading his voice. "They're trying to box us in." Jake swerved to the left, trying to break free, but the cars mirrored their every move, a relentless pursuit closing in. The initial wave of exhilaration morphed into a plunge of dread, widening the chasm of uncertainty within Tony. "Hold on," Jake shouted again, easing the Porsche into a tight turn that sent them skidding. The world outside felt like it was spinning faster than the wheels beneath them. Were they prepared for more than just a race? Had they underestimated their opponents? As the cars began to close in further, one of the drivers leaned out of the window, a smirk plastered across his face. Tony felt his fists clench. They weren't just racing. They were hunting, and he couldn't let them catch him. The fear threatened to consume him. What did it mean to face danger head-on? "Stay focused," Rick hollered, snapping him back to the moment. In that instant, clarity struck Tony like lightning. It was time to turn the tables. "Let us show them what we've got," Tony yelled, adrenaline surging anew. And just like that, a fire ignited in their chests. They would race, but with heart, and they would fight back. What strategies could they muster on this unpredictable road? As they barreled forward, Tony could sense the pulse of the impending challenge. The real race was just beginning, and he was ready to face it, even if it meant confronting darkness. But little did they know, the headlights behind were only the beginning. What awaited them would shake the very foundation of everything they believed. What were the true stakes of this reckless race? The tires screeched against the asphalt, a deafening scream that echoed in the cold night. Jake's face was set in determination as he steered the Porsche with a precision born from countless hours spent behind the wheel. The headlights of their pursuers flickered dangerously close, illuminating the tension between fear and resolve. "Here they come," Rick yelled, pointing at the car on their right as it edged closer, like a predator circling its prey. Tony's heart raced. "We need a plan now." He could feel his pulse thundering, syncopating with the growl of the engine. It was a race, but it felt more like a fight for survival. "Duck, let us lose them," Jake shouted as he suddenly swerved into a narrow alley, the Porsche fishtailing slightly as they narrowly avoided a trash bin. Tony held his breath, the world outside rushing by in a blur of lights and colors. This was madness, a reckless gamble with their lives hanging in the balance. But there was no turning back now. "Where's the exit?" Tony shouted, scanning the maze of alleyways that twisted like a labyrinth. The dim lights barely pierced through the darkness, and the narrow margins left little room for error. "Just keep watching the turns," Jake shouted back, his focus unwavering. "We need to outsmart them." The roar of engines bounced off the brick walls, a reminder that their rivals were close behind. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught Tony's eye, a glimpse of a dead end approaching fast. "Jake, right? There's a way out." He pointed, urging him to act quickly. With a sharp turn of the wheel, the Porsche flew into the right turn, tires absorbing the shock with a reassuring grip. Tony felt a rush of hope. Maybe there was a way out after all. But as they twisted into the new path, they couldn't escape the sense of being hunted. The two cars pursued them with relentless precision, their headlights swinging, shifting like the jaws of an alligator preparing to snap shut. "Don't let them see you flinch," Rick yelled, his voice a blend of fear and excitement. Encouraged by his words, Tony straightened his jaw. They were a team and they would face this together. The alley opened up into a wider street further down a chance. With one long glance in the rearview mirror, Jake pushed the gas pedal deeper into the floor, the engine's roar escalating into a commanding growl. Then, out of nowhere, the car to their left revved up, trying to push them toward the sidewalk. "Too close," Tony barked, as adrenaline surged in his veins. With instinct kicking in, he grabbed the gear shift, his hands shaking. "Let them go." Jake's voice was steady but filled with tension. "Stay focused." And then it happened. An explosion of lights from the approaching cars blinded them momentarily. "Think fast," Tony barked, and in a daring move, Jake spun the wheel hard, narrowly avoiding a collision that could have ended it all. The Porsche drifted like a dancer, twirling just inches away from the other cars. They were playing a dangerous game, a high-speed ballet on the edge of disaster. Breathless, Tony felt a surge of determination. They would not succumb. "We can make it," he shouted, adrenaline fueling his resolve. Suddenly, a break in the chaos appeared. A gap in traffic up ahead, an opening. "There," Tony pointed. "I see it." Jake's voice was filled with fierce determination. Pushing through the final stretch, they surged into the opening with the thrilling sensation of freedom. They broke away, the weight of the darkness lifting, if only for a moment. But as they pulled into the open road, they caught a glimpse of their reflection, a fleeting look at themselves in the rearview mirror. Three friends on the brink of something much bigger than just a race. The headlights behind them flickered. The hunters were still close. What they faced next would challenge not only their skills but unearth truths they had long kept buried. "Let us keep moving," Jake urged, eyes forward. With renewed vigor, they sped into the horizon. But what lay ahead wouldn't just test their driving. It would dig into their very souls, challenging who they really were. As they raced past the tree line into the unknown, Tony whispered to himself, "What is it we're really racing against?" The question hung heavy in his mind, and answers felt closer than ever. The road stretched ahead like a dark ribbon, yet the moonlight painted it with patches of silver, illuminating their path. Jake's knuckles were white against the wheel, his eyes narrowed, scanning the horizon for any sign of the pursuing cars. The night air was thick with tension, the only sounds their breathless gasps and the rhythmic pounding of the engine. "Keep your head in the game," Rick shouted, his voice cracking slightly. He glanced into the back seat, fear flickering in his eyes. This isn't a joyride. They're out for blood. Tony swallowed hard, his heart racing faster than the Porsche itself. What if we can't shake them? What's the plan then? Plan? Jake nearly laughed, though it was devoid of joy. We improvise. Suddenly, Rick's gaze flicked toward the rearview mirror. They're gaining on us. We have to split up. Split up? Tony's stomach dropped. Felt like death itself. Are you serious? We could get picked off. They can't chase all three of us down the same road. Rick reasoned quickly. It's our best shot. Trust me. Fine. Just be careful, Jake said, slowing the car down slightly to maintain control. With a quick glance back, Tony nodded and unbuckled his seatbelt. He felt a pang of fear mixed with excitement. What they were about to do was as reckless as it was brave. Yet deep down, he understood they had no other option. On the count of 3, Jake instructed. 1, 2, 3. Without hesitating, they all veered in different directions. Tony gripped the door handle tightly, his heart hammering as he took off down a side street, the roar of his engine barely matching how loud his thoughts screamed in his head. This is crazy. But as he broke from the group, a strange sense of freedom washed over him. He'd spent too long feeling trapped in school, trapped in expectations, trapped in a life that felt mundane. He darted into another alley, weaving between crates and flickering streetlights. But fear lingered in the back of his mind. Had he made the right choice? Every instinct screamed at him to turn back, to regroup with his friends. But the adrenaline surged. He could feel it pushing him deeper and deeper into the night. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed behind him, followed by screeching tires. Panic surged. Had they caught Jake? Rick? No, they can't, Tony murmured, his voice barely a whisper. It felt surreal, like a scene from a movie. But this was his reality. He turned sharply into another street, trying to block out the sound of the chaos behind him. Couldn't he end like this? Not now, not ever. He could go on alone, he could keep running, but every beat of his heart reminded him they were in this together. The true danger wasn't just their pursuers, it was the fear of losing his friends. Tony slowed down, glancing into the mirror. He could either keep running away or face it head-on. And at that moment, he realized he couldn't let fear dictate his life any longer. He took a deep breath, gripped the wheel tighter, and made the choice that would affect everything. Take me to them, he said aloud, the determination resonating deep within him. He spun the Porsche around, his spirit ignited. He could hear the engines echoing through the alleyways, but now he was prepared. This was about more than just fast cars, it was about friendship, loyalty, and ultimately standing together in the face of danger as he tore back into the night. He knew he wasn't just racing through the streets, he was racing toward a truth waiting to be uncovered. With each turn, he thought of Jake and Rick, and the bond that tied them together. The darkness loomed ahead, but so did the illuminating strength of unity. Could they still make it out alive? Or had they stepped too far into a fight they couldn't win? The thrill of the chase kicked in once more, propelling him into the unknown, where fate awaited. The moon hung high, casting a silver glow on the scattered asphalt, as Tony drove with purpose. That rush of adrenaline pulsed through him, propelling him toward the chaos. He was no longer just running away. He was racing back to his brothers, ready to reclaim their fight together. The Porsche's engine roared beneath him, a comforting sound that reminded him of their countless hours in the garage, laughter mingling with the clanking of tools. This wasn't just a car, it was their legacy. He knew they could conquer anything together, as long as they had each other. Turning onto the main road, he could see headlights weaving through the night. In the distance, they emerged a flash of chrome and darkness, closing in on the two cars that had cornered Rick and Jake. Tony's heart raced. This was it. He felt fear tangle with determination. They were going to beat this. They had to. His brothers had each other's backs, and he intended to join them. Hold on, guys, he shouted to himself, gripping the wheel like it was a lifeline. He leaned into the accelerator, the Porsche responding with the fierce growl it was known for, electrifying the air around him with each corner he took. The headlights seemed to grow larger, reckless ambition driving the hostile pursuers. Tony's heart raced faster than the car. They were approaching a straight stretch, exactly what he needed. Now or never. He breathed, a fierce charge fueling his resolve. He swung the car wide, letting it peel onto an alternate route. Digging deep into his memory, he recalled the winding roads they had raced on during childhood, the familiar curves and swift turns now coming back to him. He had to outpace them. He surged ahead, pushing the limits of the Porsche, knowing the heart of the beast lay in its fierce engine. "Simon, baby, don't fail me now," he urged, sweat drenching his brow as he navigated through the uncertainty. Suddenly, he spotted Jake's car calling out to him from behind a cluster of trees. "Tony!" Jake shouted, wild relief flickering across his face. "We were no time," Tony interrupted, heart pounding fiercely. "We got company." Before he could finish, one of the pursuers had made their move, trying to box in Rick and Jake. The threat was real, and Tony couldn't let his brothers get caught. "Get ready," he called out, shifting gears as they merged onto the same street, bringing the three of them together. The dynamic shifted from danger to unity in just an instant. The Porsche roared back to life, and Tony felt an electric blend of fear and excitement. "We need a plan," Rick shouted, adrenaline fueling his voice. "No more splitting up." Tony rallied, glancing between Jake and Rick. "This is our race. Together, let us show them what we're made of," Jake replied, his determination mirrored in Rick's resolute nods. They raced forward. The enemy cars flanked them, a sinister choreography set to the pounding rhythm of their engines. The night was alive with danger, but within their trio, a fierce bond surged to the surface. It wasn't just about racing anymore. It was about standing together, pushing against the tide of fear. In a moment of solidarity, Tony gripped the wheel tighter. "Let us take them head on," he shouted, a wild grin crafting on his face. "We race with our hearts. Let us do this," Rick echoed, igniting a fervor in their hearts. With minds aligned, they pressed the pedal down. The Porsche flew forward in a blaze of glory, engines roaring triumphantly, releasing a battle cry that echoed across the open night. They weaved through the living maze of asphalt and chaos, dodging their pursuers with orchestrated skill. Every turn felt liberated, unshackling them from their fears. Suddenly, they found themselves in the midst of a straightaway, lighting up the horizon with the promise of speed. "Now!" Tony shouted as he accelerated, feeling the engine hum with life and anticipation. Their shared passion igniting the very essence of friendship. Outmaneuvering their challengers, the Porsche soared forward, a testament to their unity. In that moment, the distance between them and their pursuers opened wide. Tony felt a rush of victory wash over him. They were not just racing against time. They were racing for each other, for their legacy, and for themselves. As they crossed a familiar line streaked on the asphalt, the sound of their engines gradually fading away, the thrill of victory washed over them. The thrill of having each other, of walking away from the shadows, was more gratifying than any trophy. They were family, and together, nothing was too great to conquer. As the glow of the moon dimmed, they slowed down, the tension dissipating like the racing fog around them. Laughing and cheering, they pulled to a stop, weapons of speed now resting in their hands. With hearts pounding and smiles bright, they knew this was just the beginning. Standing together, a trio forged in trials and triumphs, they could see the world laid out before them, each worry slipping away into the rearview mirror of their victory. The possibilities stretched out like an open road ahead. "Together, we can take on anything," Tony breathed, emotion welling in his chest, heavier than all the chaos they had just escaped. Together, they had reclaimed not only their car but the spirit of what it meant to be brothers. Triumphantly united, they awaited the next chapter of their lives as the sun broke through the horizon, promising promise and freedom like never before. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It really makes a difference. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. What did this journey mean to you? And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.